In this video, I'm going to show you the #1 thing that every whitetail property needs. So as you can see, we're in the food plot right now, and right here, this is not part of the food plot. This is a switchgrass screen, goes all the way to the back tree, that tree line right back there. And so we got some pretty good coverage in here, a couple weeds, but we're going to mow this here soon. But the food plot's coming in good, buckwheat's coming in good, corn is starting to come in good. So what every whitetail property needs is a food plot. And so I know a lot of people that are, especially in the Midwest where we're at, we have a lot of agricultural fields. And so they think that since that food is there, since those ag fields are there, they don't need a food plot. And that is not true, because deer need that quality food, that green forage during the hunting season, and they don't need those soybeans. Soybeans don't even go good into the hunting season. Corn's really good during the hunting season, but it's for an ag field, so the farmers come in and harvest that. There's still a little bit left, but not a good amount and not a quality amount of food left after that corn is harvested. The wheat around here, I don't know if it's just my deer herd, but they did not like the wheat at all this season. The first time I've really scouted out the wheat this year, and they pretty much totally avoided the wheat, and in the ag fields. So that a lot of the agricultural fields are not quality food. During the summer it is, and that's great to grow a summer herd, but you want a fall herd. And during the fall, once that stuff's harvested, once that seed is harvested, the wheat, soybeans, corn, there's not a good amount of food, and there's not a quality amount of food for the mature bucks and the deer herd that you're trying to grow during the hunting season. So that's what these food plots are for. This food plot is right next to an agricultural field. Right behind the camera, there's a huge ag field. This ag field runs throughout the whole property. There's an ag field across here, then across here is the pasture, then across there is another ag field. So we're just totally surrounded in agricultural fields, and you wouldn't imagine how well this quarter-acre of a food plot draws in that deer way more than this huge agricultural fields that are around us. So we're planting brassicas, peas, winter peas, forage peas, maybe a little bit of clover. We got corn over there. We're going to plant sugar beets. We're going to plant turnips. So turnips, corn, and sugar beets. Those are three, and the brassicas for a little bit, not for the whole amount of time of the winter. But the the sugar beets, turnips, and corn are all late season food. So that way, once the winter storms come in, the snow comes in, they'll still have good food, and I'll still be able to hunt this spot because this food is here. The rest of it, the winter peas, forage peas, clover, and the brassicas somewhat, are all October through late November food, and then they really transition to that sugar beets, turnips, and corn during the late season. And so the reason why I have corn in here is because I'm not going to harvest this corn like the agricultural fields are and like the farmers are. So that corn will be standing up for the whole season, and then we're probably going to spray it the next spring and then replant the buckwheat and all that. But the food plot is the main attraction. If you don't have, you can have all the cover on your property. You can have all the cover in the world, and if you don't put a food plot on there, you're not going to attract mature bucks. You can go to a small property, maybe 42-acre property like this, that has no cover. Basically, there's a couple trees throughout here. It gets a little bit thicker back here, but not a quality amount of cover yet. We're still trying to increase that cover. That's what the switchgrass is here for. But not super quality cover. But with this quality food, we're attracting mature bucks and deer throughout the whole season. And so even if you don't have that much cover, putting a food plot in, really no matter what size, this is a 1/4 acre, you're going to attract a mature buck. And I shot my target buck in here, or not my target buck, but a really nice buck in here. Actually, just right over here, he stood out right here. And I was in this tree right here, shot him at 15 yards. And so not a lot of cover, agricultural fields all around. He wasn't eating in those agricultural fields. He was eating in this hunting plot. And he came in, stopped right here. It was a quartering away shot, and I shot him. And he actually died in a micro food plot right over here. So that's just showing you what really the power of what these food plots can do. He wasn't out in all these fields where all the soybeans were. They were all still out here. He was in the food plot eating on the green forage that was here. So that just goes to show that they really value the food plot a lot more than they do the agricultural fields. So if you're thinking of getting into whitetail habitat and increasing your whitetail habitat, I would not even worry about switchgrass screens, planting conifer trees, planting cover yet, because the number one thing that your property needs before you plant any type of cover is a food source. And if you don't have that food source, you're not going to have a direct line of movement. And if you don't have a direct line of movement, you're not going to know where to hunt in your cover spots. And you're just not going to have a good hunt if you don't have a good value food plot. So the number one thing that every whitetail property needs, if you're going to hunt them strategically and just making sure that you be successful when you're hunting mature bucks, is putting on food plots. And so those agricultural fields don't cut it. You have to have food plots if you want to have a good herd, if you want to grow a good herd, and you want to attract and hold mature bucks on your land during the hunting season. So I hope that helps you. If you're wondering what you need to do first for whitetail habitat, if you're new to whitetail habitat, the number one thing that you need is a food plot, but also making sure you're putting those food plots in the right places. You don't want to take out an already existing bedding area, cut all of it out, and plant a food plot. You need to find where the deer are traveling through, but there's still enough room to put a food plot. And you don't want to put it right next to a bedding area either. The bedding area over here is probably 400 yards away. The bedding over here is probably the same exact, probably 400 yards away too. So we have a line of movement in between the food and the bedding. And so the food also shows you where to put your bedding spots at, where you need to upgrade your bedding spots, where you need to increase cover, because that's the direct line of movement. This food plot right here directs everywhere where the deer go. And the agricultural fields do that somewhat as well, because around here, that's basically all they have is agricultural fields. In big wood settings, though, these food plots really do it. But still, food plots are still above the line of movement of agricultural fields. They're going to direct line of movement. This food plot is way more than this huge agricultural field is in all the agricultural fields around here. So if you're new to whitetail habitat, again, putting a food plot out is the number one thing to do. Making sure you have good access, good trees around, and putting these food plots out, you can really have a great chance at hunting a mature buck. And so it also depends on, it really depends on your area and how big of a food plot that you're doing. There's a 1/4 acre food plot around agricultural fields, so I can hunt this plot during the afternoon to evening because it's a hunting plot. It's not a destination plot. Destination plots hold the deer there for the whole time. That's what these agricultural fields do. They're going to stay here, eating the food in these smaller food plots like this 1/4 acre hunting plot, and then they're going to transition into their destination food source, which is their agricultural fields, if there's an appreciable amount of, or good value of food in those agricultural fields during the hunting season. But if you don't have good food during the hunting season in the fields, then they might use these food plots as destination food sources because there's no other food for them to eat on during the rest of the night and into the morning sometimes. So I hope that helps you if you're trying to put on new food plots. If you're new to whitetail habitat, putting in food plots is the #1 thing that you need to do for your property. And so, like I said, I hope that helps you, and I can't wait to see what this spot does this season, planting all these new seeds, and how really the deer react to it. And just really excited for what the season has to come, and making sure we're keeping up this food plot. Like, we're going to spray the weeds and everything and redisc it, but food plots are the #1 attraction in holding movement of deer, and so I hope that you'll be able to put those on your property as well.